All right, so this is a little preview of the cross-country courses at Jackson City Park that are used at the Jackson Invitational in late August. The ninth graders run a 3K at this meet, and the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders run a 4K. And we'll look at both of those courses. So just a little overview of the park. Typically, we put our tent right here next to the tennis courts, and the starting line is out here in this field right across the street. If you're new to cross country, you might not know that the starting line is divided into boxes, and those boxes are numbered, and each team is assigned a box. Typically, it's wide enough for 3 or 4 runners to stand on the starting line, and then additional runners line up behind them. The finish line is right next to the starting line, and runners will come in at this angle that we'll see here in a little bit. When the race starts, the first 200 meters or so head out up a slight rise and in between these trees up here. You'll be lined up there on the starting line. This is a pretty crowded part of the course in terms of spectators, so a lot of spectators along the hill and along the field beside you. So let's talk about the start real quick because it's about 150, 200 meters and it funnels down to going between some trees at the top of the hill. So when the race starts, the runners are all going to converge something like this, right? And so if we think about where we want to be, we don't want to be this runner right here. Okay, you got to be conservative in your start, and you don't want to be way out in front of the pack as you cross that field. You definitely don't want to be this runner right here. This runner is going to have to spend a lot of time and energy catching up to, catching up to the pack, looking for holes, trying to take advantage of any time they can pass. And that's really not a good situation we want to be in when we're starting the race. I think I'm using this meme correctly. So neither of those are places that you want to be. The ideal spot would be right here, somewhere right in the front part of the main pack of runners because now you're in great position. You don't have to waste a lot of energy passing, but you haven't spent a whole lot of energy getting way ahead at the beginning of the race. So this is the ideal spot for the first 150 or 200 meters of this race. So after that, the course heads out, goes around this large area in the northwest corner of the park. It's going to be pretty quiet here. Not a lot of spectators, but this is your time to settle in and take stock of where you are in the race. Whatever happened in the beginning happened, and now you're racing. So now you've got to figure out where am I going to go from here. Find your teammates, right? If you're behind somebody, even if you're just a few steps behind them, they don't know you're there. So call out to your teammates, let them know you're there, take some quick steps and try to meet up with your teammates at this section of the course. The distances here are approximate, but this is about the 1 kilometer mark. So if you can kind of gauge that on workouts we've done at the park. Now, after the 1 kilometer mark, after that loop around this corner of the park, you're going to head back down and go past the start. So that little rise you came up in the beginning, you're going to drop down that and run across this road and then curve up through a little grove of trees to the approximate location of the 1 mile mark right here. So after you leave that 1 kilometer mark, you're heading down a gradual downhill and then it's really flat through this section. This is where also all of those people who watch the start are going to move over and watch this part of the course. There's a lot of spectator energy here, which is great. That can kind of build some confidence, but can also be distracting. So stay focused on your race as you go through this section of the course. After the 1 mile mark, we're going to make a left turn and head up really what is the most significant and maybe the only really significant hill on this course. It's fairly steep. You're going to turn left. You're going to go up a hill. It really kind of ends right here. It's just right along here. You cross that sidewalk at the top. Go over the top. You're running along the lake, and then there's this gradual rise along the road on this side of the park, which takes us to the 2 kilometer mark. If you're in the ninth grade race, from this point, you have 1 kilometer left, right? So think about workouts we've done in the park. We know what a kilometer is. We have a good sense for that distance. That's how far you've got left to race in this race. You're also sort of peaking on this gradual hill, and at this point, you're going to wind your way back down to the level of the start finish line. So you're curving back and forth. There's some right angles. Most people are pretty spread out at this point. So it's really just staying focused on your run and finding your teammates as you go through here. So at this point, the freshman race, the ninth grade race, is going to head toward the finish. So let's take a look at that. You're probably about 200 meters out at this point. So from here on in, as we look at this last bit of the ninth grade course, nobody passes you, right? You'll be able to see the finish, lots of crowd energy again. Pass. This is where you're going to pass all the way in, and nobody passes you as you come around those two trees and head into the finish. And so there's your 3K course at Jackson City Park. For 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, at that point where the ninth grade race turns, you're going to go straight across that road. And we're going to zoom out here a little bit because we need to see another section of the park. You're going to cross that road and kind of go behind where the tent is. And here's where we'll hit the 3K point, right? So now, let's think about distance. The 10th, 11th, and 12th grade race is a 4K, so now you're 1 kilometer from the finish. So again, think about distances. We know that distance. We've got a good idea of that distance. Somewhere right here, also, there's a little, almost like a creek crossing or a drainage ditch. Just be wary of that. We'll take a look at it when we get to the park, but just something to be aware of. So after the 3K mark, you're going to head out down around this bottom baseball field. This is another really quiet, kind of lonely section of the course. Runners are oftentimes pretty spread out here. There's not a lot of spectators, so you really have to sort of find that internal drive as you're moving through this part of the course. At this point, you are about 400 meters from the finish, and that's a significant distance. A lot of people know that from track, but if you've ever run at a track, that's 1 lap around the track. So as you leave that baseball field and you're headed up along this road, there will be a coach there oftentimes telling you, kind of giving you a reminder of that distance. So that's really where you want to start focusing on the finish and passing and not letting anybody pass you. So you make that right turn, you cross the road, and now you're going to head right into the finish, the same finish that the ninth grade race uses. So that's a little look at the course. Definitely talk to teammates who have been at this course before. They'll have some tips for you, and we will have some time to look at it when we get to the park. I'm excited to see what we do. Do your race preparation correctly, and we will see you soon.